Hakkinen begins his quest for a third consecutive World Driving Championship.
All that stands in his way, the world's most talented drivers and the world's best funded race team. There are new colors, new teammates, rookie drivers, more power, stickier tires. The 51st season of the World Driving Championship begins now. It's the Australian Grand Prix coming at you on Fox Sports Net. Welcome to our Mercedes-Benz pre-race for the first Formula One race of 2000, the Grand Prix of Australia. On Fox Sports Net, your U.S. home of Formula One and host broadcaster for the United States Grand Prix in September. Hi, everybody. I'm Mike Joy alongside five-time Le Mans winner Derek Bell. And joining us from the pit lane from F1 Racing Magazine, Peter Windsor. Ricardo Zonta was the first driver to begin a reconnaissance lap for today's race. And there you see the new BMW Williams livery. For the year 2000, BMW V10 Power onboard Frank Williams cars. A lot has changed in Formula One this season, and really excited about the new year, all the driver and car changes, and there's even a new official champagne, Derek.
Yes, there is indeed, a Mom Cordon Rouge, which should be very exciting for everybody to spray everywhere and waste.
Former manager of Williams Grand Prix, now with the London Sunday Times and F1 Racing Magazine, Peter Windsor is again with us to catch us up on all the news.
Fantastic atmosphere behind the pits at the Australian Grand Prix, never more so than in the Williams BMW crew. Out in blue for the first time, Frank Williams actually had tears in his eyes when he saw his boys in this colour, because that was exactly the shade of blue that he ran back in 1969 when he began in Formula One. Modelled here for us today by Jimmy Jock Walter there and Pete Fosterhue. Jimmy actually beginning his 21st season with the Williams team. Lots new, of course, 3 rookies having their Grand Prix debut today, all looking for good results. We have Ford in with the Jaguar name. Now, Ford, an American company, perhaps a bit of a shame they don't have a stars and stripes on the side of that car and white and perhaps even an American driver. That's for the future, but at the moment very much the Jaguar English brand they're pushing there. Eddie Irvine, of course, having his first race with that team. Michelin coming into Formula One in 2001, but all the top Michelin guys are here today, and Williams, of course, looking forward to a very intensive Michelin test program which will begin coincidental with the European season, and they will be testing at the actual Grand Prix venues, so that's a very major plus for Williams. Also Toyota running Michelin tyres next year. Engine's a big discussion point. Mercedes very comfortable with McLaren, of course, and winning races, winning world championships, are now pushing to have a minimum of 2 teams per engine company. Why are they doing that? Well, of course, that would put pressure on BMW. BMW have an exclusive contract with Williams, and for the moment, of course, want to keep it that way. But Mercedes are saying, let's start doing some sharing. That wouldn't exactly help BMW, so that's what that one's all about. Finally, Foster's sponsoring the US Grand Prix at Indianapolis. Should be a lot of fun.
Well, I think I know where the McLaren Mercedes engines will go. They'll go to Alan Prost, who's having a terrible time at the moment. Plus, of course, I think one of the most exciting things is seeing this car here, which is the BMW engined Williams. I'm sorry, I'm totally wrong. I saw a white car. I'm not used to these colours yet. Is the fact that BMW will be back this year. And I think for the future, BMW in Formula One is really fantastic.
Well, this team also has a new engine package. It's a Honda underneath the bonnet of that BAR for Jacques Villeneuve, and there's Jaguar coming out. So much is new for 2000. Let's take a moment and have a look back in snapshot form at some of the highlights of the 1999 season just concluded. Mika Hakkinen entered 1999 as the defending world champion, but there were lots more stories besides his repeat. Jacques Villeneuve joined the new BAR team, and they spent lots of money, but were not rewarded with a single championship point. Stewart reigned at the Nürburgring. With the team's first win by Johnny Herbert, Frank Williams had to pay off a bet and wear Stuart Tartan in the paddock. Rubens Barrichello finished third, catching the eye, and a contract from Ferrari. It was a year of highs and lows at Jordan. Heinz-Harald Frentzen recorded 2 victories, while 1996 world champion Damon Hill concluded his career. 2-time kart champ Alex Zanardi returned to Formula One. What could have been a dream season turned nightmarish as he finished only 3 races and lost his ride for this year. Zanardi's tough transition was overshadowed by teammate Ralf Schumacher, who finished 6th in the point. So at the top, Ferrari versus McLaren again. Eddie Irvine got his first career victory in Melbourne, while Hakkinen answered back, winning 3 of the next 5. Schumacher's crash in Britain put paid to his season. Mika Salo filled in. Hakkinen could have capitalized, but mechanical failures and crashes and a win by Coulthard, Mika just could not pull away. Schumacher returned early in Malaysia. He won the pole and helped Irvine to victory, while Jean Todt answered the barge board controversy. In Japan, Irvine off in Friday practice and then got a bad start in the race, handing the championship to Hakkinen, who led from start to finish and became only the 7th man in Formula One history to win consecutive Drivers' Championships. How great that it went to the final race with Hakkinen edging Irvine by 2 points. Remember that Michael Schumacher there in 5th missed 6 races.
And the Constructors' Championship, well, Ferrari won it for the first time since 1983. A very close finish there. And, of course, look at Jordan, Mugen, Honda. They were running very close as well towards the end. Very strong year from them.
We'll be right back as our Mercedes free race continues for the first Formula One race of 2000. Look what happened to Michael Schumacher on Friday.
Oh my goodness, he shot straight across the grass into the barrier, and that was it. Damaged the car very, very badly indeed. But wonder what he's telling Jean Todt right now.
Welcome back to our Mercedes-Benz free race for the Australian Grand Prix. Watching Pedro Diniz go around, and that countdown clock upper left is the time to the start of the Australian Grand Prix. Reconnaissance laps continue in front of a big crowd, and a lot of work going on in the Ferrari garage. That's Schumacher's car as Barrichello is out on the circuit. And look at Michael's new helmet, all that white and the sea of blue at the top. He and Barrichello are going to be very difficult to tell apart on the track. That black, or the dark black surrounding the eye port, is the big clue. Barrichello's helmet has a white surround, as you see here. Otherwise, they are tough to tell apart. That's just one of the many changes for the 2000 season. Let's have a little more detailed look at what new for Y2K, that is. The Formula One season begins not in Australia, but in midwinter with the unveiling of the new cars. Here's the new McLaren Mercedes MP4-15 in a very tasteful unveiling. The most spectacular debut was that of the new B200 Benetton. And if you can't brag about your speed or your horsepower, baffle them with beauty, as Minardi did with the launch of their new car and driver lineup. Lots of driver changes. Rubens Barrichello moves from Stewart to Ferrari, taking the seat of Eddie Irvine, who jumps to Stewart, now branded Jaguar. Jarno Trulli joins Jordan after a year with Prost, while the seat in this Sauber now filled by last year's super sub Mika Salo. Jos Verstappen returns to Formula One this year with the Arrows team. Fastest so far of the 3 F1 rookies is Nick Heidfeld. Last year's McLaren test driver is at Prost, partnering with Jean Alesi, the most experienced driver in this field. New manufacturers' liveries. Stewart sold out to Ford, which wisely, I think, branded their car Jaguar for the 2000 season. And BMW is now the engine supplier to Frank Williams under the eye of Gerhard Berger. Honda's Mugen Tuning Company supplies Jordan with engines. The official Honda power plants this season will be in the BAR. But with all these changes, will these familiar colors be the ones they'll all be chasing in the year 2000?
For me, the best part of that was seeing that magnificent launch in Barcelona. The Italians really have that flair for it, don't they? But for me, I think probably for this year, these young drivers out there, you've got Heidfeld, you've got Button, and you've got Gaston Mazzacane. I think that's going to be very, very interesting to see how they get on.
Michael Schumacher, his new partner Barrichello. I'll be interested to match Barrichello's performance against Eddie Irvine's, as they have swapped teams for the year 2000. The rules of Formula One have stayed mostly constant for the year 2000, but there have been some changes. Peter gives us an update.
Very few technical changes to the cars this year, although in the cockpit the drivers will be seeing for the first time some bulbs here which will be lit up to indicate either the race being stopped, a blue, which means you're going to be overtaken, or yellow, be prepared to stop because something dangerous has happened on the circuit. Now these bulbs, all FIA issued, I have to say, are going to be action from Bernard Eccleston's own personal digital TV compound here in the paddock, and indeed at all the other Grand Prix. Not by Bernard Eccleston personally, one has to say, but this is where race control effectively will be run from here on in. Other changes to the cars: Kevlar in the sides of the chassis. This is Heinz-Harald Frenzen's Jordan, about 2 millimeters thick, which is about 1/10 of an inch. Kevlar stretching the full length of the chassis and the full height of the chassis, giving much more protection to the drivers. Also increased testing on the side of the rollover bar here, 50% increase in lateral testing on the rollover bar, but some teams, Prost, VAR and Sauber, have yet to comply to that test. Back to you.
I think the most important thing about it is those lights. I think it's vital that we drivers see those lights straight in front of us. We do have wonderful peripheral vision, but when we're trying to overtake somebody in a very exciting moment, you cannot see the lights on the side of the track.
You know, Derek, more than 10 years ago in upstate New York on short oval tracks, a system like that called Race Safe was introduced. I'm surprised it's taken this long to reach the major formula, but I'm glad it has. It's a great idea. As you watch Rubens Barrichello, Ferrari's new teammate to Michael Schumacher, let's hear from the competition and world champion Mika Hakkinen. How does he feel going into a three-peat season?
Well, I feel extremely good, you know. Like you see, we are close to the beach. It's very nice, you know. What's the best way to start this year?
Is it difficult to motivate yourself after 2 World Championships to the start of another new season like this?
No, it's not. No, it's not. Obviously, winning a championship or twice, it gives you an enormous amount of more confidence and gives you again the situation like I don't have to push myself to basically prove myself I can do it or I can win it. You know, I done it. I don't have the pressure. I don't have pressure out of that. So winning twice now is making me extremely relaxed, and I think starting this year now 2000, you know, and starting here in Melbourne, the situation looks extremely good. You know, the team is more prepared than ever. The drivers, me and David, we are extremely, I feel we're quite relaxed and confident for this new coming season. And let's see what happens this weekend.
Well, I have to say, I think he's got to be a little less relaxed, a little bit more tough about this season coming up. He's had 2, you know, wonderful championships, but he's been with McLaren 8 years. This is his 8th season, and that's going to be tough for him to get that impetus, to get that drive, to get out there to beat these other guys, because I think it's going to be tough competition for him.
Well, it's clear he has the confidence, and perhaps his drive will come from a healthy Michael Schumacher this season. We'll see. Big crowd on hand as our Mercedes-Benz pre-race continues. And we wind down to the start of the Formula One season. Yesterday, the first car on track to make a qualifying pass, the senior driver of the field, Jean Alesi. Welcome back to our Mercedes pre-race. As we count down to the start of the Australian Grand Prix, trouble for Prost. That's Jean Alesi out of the car. And since there's less than 15 minutes to start, he cannot exit the garage and pit and come around to the grid. So if Prost climbs back in that car or into the spare, he will have to start the race from the pit lane rather than from his grid position. Now, in 2 weeks' time, we'll be at the Grand Prix of Brazil, and that race will air live on most Fox Sports Net affiliates. Check your local listing. It's Sunday, March 26th for race 2. And we'd like to hear from you. We read all your emails. So please send them along, your comments, to Formula1@foxsports.net is our email address, and we would certainly like to hear from you. Well, Derek, let's have a look at the circuit here at Albert Park.
Yes, 3.3 miles. It's actually quite liked by the drivers. It's fairly safe. Top speed of 185 miles an hour. Difficult for overtaking. Turns 1, 2, and 3, and in fact 13 as well. Very hard on brakes. Track is dirty, but overtaking's the main problem. Let's go on board with David Coulthard. Okay, we're going by with David in 6th gear as we streak down there, 185 miles an hour into this severe braking. 80 mile an hour 3rd gear as he goes through turns 1, turn 2, and sweeps out down under this normally shadowed area here by the trees as we go down into turn 3. This is a good overtaking spot placed by Martin Brundle. Had a nasty incident a few years ago. David gets a bit of opposite lock on there. Remember, you don't really want to use all the road in the middle part of that corner because it's the exit that's really important. He's working his way up now, as you can see, working his way up through the trees. And then as he gets the power on coming out of there, he feeds it on. He's going to get up to about 175 miles an hour. Working his way right up to this very, very tight entrance to this, what they call the Clark chicane, but it's a very wide exit as he comes out, speeds it up, third, fourth, fifth gear, winding himself up to around about 180 miles an hour for a left and a right-hand kink. You just go down one gear, sweep it through there. You don't want to lose it too much going in there. Again, feeding the power on. Then he's got another fast section. Again, as you can see, it's not easy to overtake because the cars are sweeping from one side of the road to the other, down into corner 13. Right angle corner, a lot of severe braking. It is hard on the brakes. Another right-hander. This is Stewart, corner number 14. Oops! And David loses it. This was taken the end of qualifying yesterday, and that was nearly a lap with David Coulthard.
So David climbed out. He was okay after this crash, but that red flagged the session, and here he is live.
Yeah, absolutely. He's obviously very calm. Went out and did very well this morning in warm-up. So all the nerves of yesterday have gone.
Well, that's getting a little ahead of our story. Coulthard bring out the red flag at the end of the session. Let's recap yesterday's qualifying for today's race.
Well, as we saw just now, it was John Alesi who went out first, but it was very, very hot track temperature, about the same as today, in fact 110 degrees. John went out in his first qualifying session in the frost. We saw him just now, of course, having problems with the car already. The car hasn't been going well all weekend for him or his young teammate Nick Heidfeld, who's just come up from Formula 3000, was the McLaren test driver last year. Jenson Button, another newcomer. He's had a moment in the morning session yesterday, crashed the car, didn't have a good qualifying. But Eddie Irvine, in his new drive at Jaguars, he did have a good qualifying session. He qualified 7th place, but poor Johnny Herbert yet again. All the bad luck in that team seems to go to Johnny. The engine fails on him, and he only just stops it. Rubens Barrichello, well, he's the new man at Ferrari. Very emotional for him, even more so now. He spins off the road, but he did extremely well to qualify 4th, right next to Michael Schumacher. Schumacher was trying exceptionally hard, as you can see, to get up. He could only manage 3rd and was thwarted on his last attempt. Meanwhile, Mika Häkkinen, he gets pole again. The 3rd time he's had pole at Albert Park. Tremendous bit of driving by Mika, terribly composed the whole way through. David Coulthard, well, he was trying to get up there and take Mika's position, but he damaged the car. Let's go down. And he didn't get hurt, but let's go down and see what David Coulthard had to say all about it.
I just lost the back end. Obviously trying to make up a bit of time. I was struggling through the session with understeer and ran out of time to make some adjustments to the car, so try to push through it.
It just shows you when you push the car too hard. Anyway, let's go down and see for Peter Winter.
Almost 3 battles in qualifying in Melbourne. 1, obviously, for grid positions. 2 amongst all the rookies. 3 rookies in this race. And also to keep that frost on the road. It didn't look easy at the beginning of qualifying, Nick, but you must be very pleased with the way things have worked out.
Yes, in the end, it was not as hard to keep down the road. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to be on 15th position at least. No, we improved the car a lot, especially from to my last outing in qualifying.
And he's quicker than his teammate, too. So it's a great performance from Nick Heidfeld. Let's hope it's a great race for you.
Yeah, I hope so too. Thanks.
Back to you.
Well, and that means that the spare car is set up for Heidfeld, and that's the car that Alesi will have to climb into and start from the back of the grid today. Race strategy, Derek.
Well, most of the cars are going to be on soft tyres. I think it's only one. It's Jenson Button's on the medium tyres. So really, I think they're going to have at least 2 stops. The pit lane speed has changed. It's 48 miles an hour this year. Pretty darn slow. I think that's going to have an effect on how many times they stop. And of course, as always, this is a race of attrition. 8 cars finished last year. You've got to be there at the end to see that checkered flag.
I think that lowering of the pit road speed is probably going to make race strategy very much unlike anything we saw last year, because you're going to spend a lot of time in that pit lane. You may want to forgo an extra stop. Now there's a fella. Now he's got a deal. How'd you like to look at a little TV set on the nose? Just like to have one of those little racers. Maybe not. Maybe something faster. Our Mercedes-Benz pre-race will continue as we will count down to Indianapolis and Formula One coming back to the United States this year. And we'll go Formula One-on-one with Ferrari's new driver, Rubens Barrichello, coming up next. Formula One on Fox Sports Net is brought to you by Mercedes-Benz, located on the web at mbusa.com. We'll be live in 2 weeks from the Grand Prix of Brazil. Check your local listings, and then through the season, many of our races will air at 10 a.m. your local time. We'll be live in Canada at the Canadian Grand Prix in June, of course. Back to our 10 a.m. airing for France, Austria, Germany, Hungary, and Belgium. And then in September, Formula One returns to the United States and will be live as the host broadcaster for the U.S. Grand Prix at Indianapolis. Noon for Japan and live at Malaysia.
Well, will this man win the championship? I'm sure he's thinking and feeling very confident right now, but it's a long haul ahead of him.
Well, he'll get his first look at Indianapolis later this year, at least from behind the wheel of a McLaren Mercedes. Let's have a look in our countdown to Indy at what the drivers will see when they come to the fabled Brickyard in September. There's the new pagoda, which replaced the infield tower, which replaced the old wooden pagoda. And there's the view from up there at the broadcaster level. Infield pit suites. Millions of dollars spent. New garages, new press area, new suites above the F1 garages.
And this is the first lap you've ever seen of a car going around Indianapolis. It might be computerized, but that was it. They're those wonderful hospitality suites.
Situated above the F1 garages, and there's the yard of bricks. And into Gasoline, from Gasoline Alley, out onto the circuit, and for the first time ever, they'll come out of Gasoline Alley and turn right. That hasn't happened since 1911. We're excited about it. At Fox Sports Net, we're your home for Formula One and host broadcaster for the U.S. Grand Prix. Can't wait for September.
There's Mika Hakkinen sitting in car number 1, his championship car, with course with the tire warmers on there, trying to keep the tire temperatures up around 100 degrees so that when they start the race, it'll all be action and he'll get lots of grip.
Well, this season, McLaren with Hakkinen and Coulthard against Ferrari with Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. Peter Windsor goes Formula one-on-one with Rubens.
Rubens Barrichello threatened to win races last year, and this year he joins Ferrari as Michael Schumacher's teammate. In doing so, however, he turned down a drive from Jaguar as #1 driver and potentially a lot more money, pitting himself against the world's #1. Why did he do this? We talked about that and several other matters besides.
First is a challenge. Second, driving for Ferrari would have been good with or without Michael. I think something that it was clear to me. But having Michael is the first real chance that I can tell myself how good I am. So it is the chance of my life.
And it's been a different winter in the sense that you do test at Fiorano and Mugello, new circuits for you. How do you feel about that?
Well, first of all, I thought it was a bit sad because you don't have the comparison and you go to Melbourne not knowing what to expect. But later on I understand how good the facilities were. I mean, testing at Fiorano and Mugello, they fixed the problems overnight. I mean, they fixed the problem like this.
Have you had any back-to-back comparisons with Michael so far? Same car, same tires, same conditions?
Yeah and no, because we haven't driven the F1 2000 on the same time. Because when he drove the 2000, I was driving the 99, and then when I jumped up to the 2000, he stopped driving. So in the 99, for example, I drove for the whole day, and then he did 3 or 4 laps, and he was slower. But then when I jumped on the 2000, he did a time that was 2/10 faster than me. But at least the things are close, setups are not that different, and what it matters anyway will be when qualifying time arrives.
First race as a Ferrari driver here in Melbourne. Just tell us how your emotions are going to be on the grid.
Ferrari, for me, has been a really good camp, and when I saw my name written on the car, I almost cried. But when I closed my visor, I was the professional driver trying to see if the car was better. So since then, nothing changed. I was only there to get the best out of the car.
He's full of self-belief and passion, and Rubens Barrichello is out there proving to himself and to the world just how good he's going to be. Let's sit back and enjoy. Back to you.
He's going to be good as you see him getting set, getting ready for the start of this Grand Prix, and wait till 2 weeks in his home country. That should be quite an emotional happening. All right, we'll be back with the starting grid and the start of the 2000 season. Welcome back to Albert Park, Melbourne, Australia, getting set for the first Formula One race of 2000. Mika Salo set to go on what is a beautiful day, 70 degrees, track temperature just 110, high humidity, but little chance of rain. Ralf Schumacher in the Williams new colors, white and a very, very dark blue, looks almost black on television. The Arrows car was introduced completely orange. That's a European cellular telephone company, Orange. Then they added all that black, and now it looks like Halloween again. De La Rosa. So we're drawing close to a start. Formation lap coming up shortly, and it's going to be time to have a look at our Mercedes-Benz starting grid for today's race as you have a look back through the field. Mika Hakkinen has his third straight pole here for McLaren Mercedes.
Next to him is David Coulthard, his third straight, second time he started. I guess that's a omen for the season for him.
Row 2 is Ferrari. Michael Schumacher not worried being third. He says the car will be competitive today.
I would be if Rubens Barrichello was that close to me.
And in row 3, the Jordan. Terrell Frenson very happy to be closing the gap on Ferrari and McLaren.
And Jarno Trulli very happy to be in a competitive car at last.
Eddie Irvine in the Jaguar pleasantly surprised to be 7th.
And Jacques Villeneuve has said, I'm happy to be where we are.
Giancarlo Fisichella for Benetton met his goal of a top 10 start.
Mika Salo in the Petronas, which is the Ferrari, last year's Ferrari engine, doing very well in 10th place.
Ralf Schumacher for Williams thought he could have done better. Throttle problems.
Dalla Rosa was very happy. He said, I'm quicker than I was last year.
Jos Verstappen for Arrows, just a 10th off his teammate in 13th. Alexander Wirtz had no luck at all with the traffic. And the fastest of the F1 new boys is Nick Heidfeld for Prost, while Ricardo Zonta said they just plain missed the setup. Jean Alesi, no bright moments in his weekend. He'll start from the pit lane. And Marc Genet, the fastest of the two Minardis. 20th, Pedro Diniz for Sauber, a tough day. And Johnny Herbert said it's the worst pre-race he can ever remember. And then the other two rookies, Jenson Button, fuel pickup problems forced him into the spare. And the Argentine Mazzacani fills the grid for Minardi.
Yes, two young men right at the back of the grid, but what a great future they have ahead of them.
This is the 5th year at this circuit. Jacques Villeneuve, the winner in 96, David Coulthard 97, Mika Hakkinen 98, and last year Eddie Irvine. So at this circuit, no back-to-back winner, and in any Australian Grand Prix, nobody has doubled at Adelaide or here.
Well, this is the 16th Australian Grand Prix as well. The others were held at Adelaide, and then Melbourne poached it away from them.
You're on board with Michael Schumacher there briefly.
Yes, he's not the one flying the helicopter, he was the one in the car. It's actually a great shot of the cars as they go around. We don't often see this shot. David Coulthard spun just at the corner, just where the car, right underneath the right-hand side of the helicopter. He lost it, in fact, where Michael Schumacher went off as well the previous day. There's the pit entrance, there's the pit road, and there you can see this pit speed line, I think, the white line just by that Firestone Bridge there. That's where they have to be doing 48 miles an hour, and that, of course, is where they'll put on their little, press the button, and the car should slow right down to the required speed. But it's a long way at 48 miles an hour in a Formula One car.
Well, Derek, McLaren's on the front row. What must Michael Schumacher attempt to do between the grid and the first turn?
Well, of course, Michael really has got to get between the two McLarens, because we've seen historically that Mika does seem to get away from David. David Coulthard, that is, has done all the testing this year, tremendous amount of it, but Hakkinen does have that ability, and I think if he has David behind him, he will pull away, but Michael has to get in there and keep with him. Of course, you've got Barrichello right close at hand, and this is Jean Alesi sitting in the pit lane. Off come the tyres. He cannot go out until those all the cars have left the grid. What a way for him to start his year with Prost. Prost having a terrible time with these Peugeot engines, and makes you wonder, will he run Mercedes engines next year?
Now you will see the lights come up on the screen as we face the grid. They're all illuminated. They go out one by one. When the last light is out, the 2000 season is on. Start. Here come the Jordans.
Just watch this first corner. First part. Get a similar situation there. Very dangerous coming down in there. This middle pack here. Rubens Barrichello trying to hold off the Jordan behind him. What a pack there. Are they going to touch? Let's pray and hope they don't. No, they all keep it clean. Thank goodness for that.
Derek, there were 4 abreast entering that corner.
Yes, remember, this is a street circuit. There probably hasn't been any racing. Well, I know there hasn't during the last year since the last race. So consequently, it does get very green, very dirty, very dusty offline. You cannot afford to get too wide. Oh, what a good bit of manoeuvring there that went on. very clean so far. They break very severely down. Ooh, blocking one another as they come down here. Looked like Lazy was trying to work his way through there, I think, or certainly one of the Prosts.
Remember, Lacy started from the pit lane, gave up that 17th grid position due to car trouble in the warm-up, and started 22nd and last. So it's Hakkinen and Coulthard for McLaren, Schumacher third for Ferrari. Barrichello dropped to fifth. Heinz-Harald Frentzen, that's the yellow car, the Jordan, in fourth.
Jenson Button is already up to 15th. That was the Prost that I saw moving forward. He's up to 15th from 23rd. I didn't mention that in warm-up, Jenson Button was second quickest. Absolutely outstanding. But this morning he said, I only wish I could have done that yesterday. I'd have been about 8 places up the grid, because he did have an awful time yesterday in practice and qualifying after a rather bad crash.
He is but 20 years old, and he's come under a lot of, I won't say outright criticism, let's call it skepticism from veteran F1 observers who say that he's too young, but maybe he just doesn't yet know what he can't do.
Well, he certainly doesn't know what he can't do. Let's hope he doesn't find out too quickly. But he certainly is a stunning talent. He's only actually had two years in big-time racing. Well, not big-time. He had Formula Ford, and then he had Formula 3, and there's only actually three world champions have actually come up from Formula 3 direct to Formula 1. One of those was Senna, the other was Piquet. Oh, hello.
Johnny
Herbert's off already. How unfortunate for Johnny. This has been the worst weekend for him ever, I would have to say. Last year he had the fire at the start, didn't he?
Yes, he called it the worst pre-race in memory, and now it's probably the worst start to the season in memory.
And he won the coin flip from Eddie, thinking his luck was changing, so who was to have the spare car? He's needed all 5 cars this weekend.
Yeah, he needed it about a lap ago, I'm afraid.
Good bit of overtaking going on here, is it? Oh dear, it's all a bit tight there. Oh dear, did they tangle? Yes, they touched. Something came off. A bit of a barge board, I should imagine, or a bit of front wing. Doesn't look too stable, that blue car, as he goes away. But was that Johnny Herbert back there having that incident?
Might well have been.
That's probably what sidelined him at the end.
And we start the season right about where we left off.
Yes, sad to relate. I want to see a bit more yellow. I want to see the car. I want to see the Jordan in there a little bit closer at this stage. But it is a long race, and it historically has been a race of attention. These guys know they've got to finish. They've all done lots of testing during the winter, and of course race distances. It's nothing like the real thing. Michael, of course, pretty darn close to the back of Coulthard. Not many aerodynamic changes done, just tidying up changes for this year, so there is still a lot of turbulence behind the cars, which somehow they have to overcome.
Now, late in qualifying yesterday, Schumacher was on a lap that might well have gotten him the pole. His first segment time was faster than Hakkinen's, but that was the lap on which David Coulthard crashed and brought out the red flag, so Schumacher was obliged to abort the lap, and that's how he lined up third. But don't let the grid positions and speeds fool you. On the grid, Schumacher lacks half a second to Mika Hakkinen, but you see here that that's not really indicative of how close these cars are.
No, it's a difficult time right now, because the race has got to sort of steady itself down a bit. There's been all the hype, there's been months of preparation for this. The cars, haven't driven under these extreme situations before. Michael Schumacher hasn't done much work in the car, so he's going to steady the program up. He's going to push David Coulthard. He knows that David makes the odd mistake. Of course, Michael has made a few this weekend already himself, so I think he wants to steady things down a bit, because he needs points in the first race of the year. They count very, very heavily towards the end of the year, those early points.
Marc Genet is back on track after an extended stay in the pits. Derek, I'm used to the idea of drivers having bad crashes like the one that Coulthard sustained yesterday in qualifying, climbing out and being okay. But the fact that he is racing the car that he crashed yesterday, and the whole back of that car was rebuilt by the technicians last night and this morning, that looked like a bad crash, and it looked like one that might ride off the car, but not so.
It is astonishing when you also remember that yesterday morning after practice before qualifying, the McLaren mechanics changed both engines, one in 40 minutes and the other in 45, and then they had to rebuild his car overnight, so they're expecting some payback today from these two drivers.
So Mika Hakkinen leads from his McLaren Mercedes teammate David Coulthard. The Ferrari of Michael Schumacher is third. Frentzen in the Jordan fourth. Barrichello's Ferrari, and Jarno Trulli. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Albert Park and the first race of 2000 for the Formula One season. Rubens Barrichello finds himself in a Jordan sandwich. That is Frentzen just ahead. Barrichello got off to a bad start. He was 4th on the grid. Caught up Frentzen now.
And in fact, he's very close. I mean, he's just snapping at his heels the whole way around. He's not using all the road in the corners, so he knows he's got the legs of the Jordan, but catching somebody up and overtaking them are two different things. And as I said, oh, here's a good bit of replay. Whoa, there's a lazy. He was making that charge from the back. Not a very good move from Jean there, but he's kept it running, has he? Yes. Smoking the tires, and off he goes.
Great show for the fans there, but I'm sure Lacey is now about as frustrated as he can get, and his boiling point is low to start with.
That's right, yes. He's known to flare quite easily. There's Jacques Villeneuve in the BAR. They've got to really prove something this way. Jacques went very well in practice. They thought in qualifying as well. Been there all weekend. This is his make or break year with them. He's getting paid a tremendous amount of money to drive, and he really needs his time. That man has the ability. He should be in a top team, or a team capable of giving him a winning car.
A look at Villeneuve's career stats. Right behind him, good battle raging. One of the Saubers trying to hold off the challenge from the Arrows there. Villeneuve winner here in 96 and the pole winner for this race, 96 and 7.
Isn't it good to see those two Arrows cars running up so well? They, along with the BAR, were two of the worst cars last year. Tom Walkinshaw's team had most terrible seasons, but he has the budget this year. Orange have come in with $110 million over 3 years. Just in the last week, hence the cars are orange, and they're looking very competitive indeed. They've done a lot of work on the aerodynamics of the car. In fact, they got the aerodynamicist who went from Stuart Ford. He's gone across to them, and he's obviously doing a lot of work, and it's been coming out tops for him.
Back up front, Hakkinen and Coulthard continue to hold first and second. 1.6 seconds is the differential, and you see Michael Schumacher right there in the Ferrari, keeping pace.
Yes, as I said, he's playing possibly a sort of waiting game, and I'm sure he'd like to get by if he could. But, you know, there are other pit stops to go. We're told, in fact, that David Coulthard may well be on a one-stop strategy and Mika Hakkinen on a two-stop. So Mika really has to get away at this point because he's got to go in for two stops. We've no idea what Ferrari on, and I don't think they're going to tell anybody anyway. But sorry, if I may just butt in, Frentzen has dropped back. I mean, he's some 13 seconds behind now, so Rubens needs to get by this group so he can catch up and stay with Michael Schumacher.
Well, if Hakkinen started the race on light tanks, Derek, it doesn't appear evident from the way Coulthard's keeping pace with him if he started with a heavier fuel load.
Absolutely not. At the same time, David Coulthard is no doubt trying to keep Michael at bay because they don't want Michael's pushing Mika Hakkinen and edging him, you know, into playing different silly games and perhaps going off the road.
Good point. Well, the new rule about pit road speed being lowered for this year, I think, is really going to play strategy, because that's really going to, you have to measure pit stops not just in terms of the time the car is stopped, but the total time the car. Oh,
Irvine's, I don't know if he's off. He's certainly stopped. Whether he's backwards into the wall or what it is, no, he's trying to get it out of the way. Oh dear. He and De La Rosa, apparently the Spaniard De La Rosa in the Arrows.
And they're going to steer him off to the fence. Here's
Here
what
we
happens.
go. Let's see what happens. Whoa, dear, oh dear. Eddie going backwards a long way down the road, and a wheel bouncing down the road. Nasty place for it all to happen. So that was De La Rosa's wheel. Looks like Eddie kept everything running. He's got all four wheels, but no engine. He had, in fact, dropped from 7th down to 11th, so he wasn't having such an inspired time.
So last year's winner of the Australian Grand Prix and our producer Larry Holmes picked to win the World Championship. No points in Australia for Irvine, and that puts both Jaguars out of the race.
Exactly. Not a good start for them. Safety cars going out because there is a lot of debris on the track from that incident, because they were actually on the road, not on the dirt when they collided. Well, when the bits and pieces started to fall off the car. Usually the cars touch and then they go on the dirt and everything falls off when they hit the guardrail or the fence. But in this case, they actually connected on the road.
There's both drivers out of the cars and okay. Here's another look. Separate incident.
Separate incident.
That would have been Verstappen.
Yeah. Look at the front wheel. The suspension broken on the front wheel. Steering went on the car. That's basically what happened. There's De La Rosa in the black suit talking to Eddie Irvine in the green. Eddie didn't have much to say, but he didn't poke him on the nose, but he tried to with Ayrton Senna, so maybe it wasn't all that bad after all. Well, the Cat is not back and doing terribly well at the moment, but that car is totally a new car, apart from the engine, of course.
Well, one of the 9 lives, Jaguar, out early. Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard continue to lead with McLaren-type precision. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Australia. Round 1 of the Formula One World Championship. Safety car is on the course for an incident involving Pedro de la Rosa and Eddie Irvine. Get all the day's scores, highlights, and breaking stories nightly at 10 and midnight on Fox Sports Net. Check your local listings. At 8 laps out of the race, Johnny Herbert with clutch trouble. Eddie Irvine and De La Rosa crash. We saw Jos Verstappen have suspension problems. He's returned to the pits, and they are attempting to repair his car and get him back out.
Although there was a lot of talking going on, I thought like they weren't terribly mobile about it. It's going to be interesting to see. These guys just aren't used to the restarts like we are in the States. So it's going to be quite interesting to see how they react to it all. They're obviously weaving around, trying to get the temperatures up in these tires because the temperatures do go away quickly.
And the teams have been informed that the safety car will come in this time.
There's the new Minardi color right at the back of the grid.
Looks a lot like the Jordan. It's kind of a day-glow lime, where the Jordan is now a day-glow yellow with a tinge of green to it.
At least we haven't got any orange arrows to worry about and get worried confused with their colors, although they're mixed with black fairly heavily. They're really weeding about trying to get those tires warmed up, get them up to speed, because once they drop down in temperature, they also can lose pressure. And when you lose pressure, of course, you can actually have instability in the car, and of course the tire can in fact pull off the rim.
Side SC sign indicating safety car. Here it goes to the pits, and the green will be back out, and we're racing once again in Melbourne. Mercedes, Ferrari, Jordan,
and another Ferrari. Let's see if the Ferrari, let's see Barrichello can get by the Jordan under braking. Oh, he's having a good look down the inside of Frentzen, but he didn't make it. That's what he's got to do. He's got to have another go at him up here while maybe Frentzen's a little bit perturbed by the closeness of Barrichello right behind him. Here we go, have another look.
Jarno Trulli trying to worry Barrichello there in the second Jordan.
Well, of course, if he can do that, it means that Barrichello can't worry Frentzen in front of him,
right.
So it works all ways. Now, will that play into anybody's hands as far as pit stop strategy is concerned, and tyres, we don't know. They only lost maybe 3 laps, probably not enough to affect anything. But normally, you can normally have a switch on the dashboard, and you change that switch when you actually run behind a pace car, so the engine doesn't run too rich, slow down, and the car can go round, let's say, at 5,000 to 6,000 revs without actually having the engine choke up, which we used to have in the old days.
But you're not really conserving fuel on the yellow. You're not burning as much, but you're not coasting around on the yellow flag lap to conserve fuel.
Sweeping down the back part of the circuit.
Oh,
Look, here we go. Michael's having a look down the inside of David. It is a place to overtake, but it's a very fast entry into that corner. But Michael is very, very close. He's got to start thinking about it, because right behind him is Heinz-Harald Frentzen. Look at Barrichello right behind. Remember, they were something like 8 seconds behind just before the full pace. Oh, Coulthard slowed right down. Coulthard's coming in the pits, and he was on a one-stop strategy, so it can't be for fuel.
Big trouble at lap 9 for David Coulthard.
Well, the guys that have the bad luck, they have the bad luck. You saw Johnny Herbert just now coming in, and David Coulthard cruising in very, very slowly indeed. And he had been quite fast on that lap, but you had noticed that Michael was up behind him, and Barrichello and Frentzen were close, so there was a problem.
Coulthard was out of the race early here in Melbourne last year. Tires, fuel, clean of the visor.
Long stop so far. Was he complaining about the tires?
Well, Derek, might he have run over something during the caution period?
He might have picked up some debris. Left rear puncture perhaps, but no, they're looking at, don't think so. They're looking at something underneath on the left-hand side of the car.
A lot of smoke. Has he got something?
Might be one of the barge boards or something. You can see them on this side of the car. Maybe one of the barge boards came loose. That's a long, long stop. That's the smoke pouring out of that left-hand bank of the engine. Nobody seems to know what to do. Nothing much much you can do when all the bodywork's on. They're going to have to take that bodywork off. They really want to investigate. No, off he goes.
A 44-second pit stop for David Coulthard, and
basically puts him out of the running as far as the lead's concerned. It's a long way behind to be.
But remember how high the attrition has been in this race the last couple of years.
Oh, absolutely. You just need another yellow caution or something. He didn't lose a complete lap. We can't quite hear it on the TV, but when you're at the track, the noise of that new... Oh, look,
it's gone.
The engine is going to go. Well, there was certainly clouds of smoke then. So something is going to... I believe it's Mika Hakkinen going by right now.
And there's David.
Pulling off. No, that was the engine. There obviously was a major problem with the motor.
Well, that's when they send you back out and they say, well, let's see if we can find out what's wrong.
Let's look at the telemetry in here and see if we can see what it is. David, what a dismal way to start the year. He's been working so hard. He's had so many critical people about him in the last year. You're not getting into the act, and he's saying, yes, I am. I can beat Mika on his day. He's still not beating Mika on his day. He's up there. He's very close. He's a tenth or so behind him, but he's not beating him. You've got to beat somebody like him to win.
And while we're used to seeing silly season at the end of the season, already this week there are rumors that Coulthard is out of that car for next year. It's not silly season anymore. It's like silly all the time.
You just saw that Schumacher set the fastest lap of the race once David Coulthard got out of the way. David's engine blowing. He's obviously not really up to speed, so he hasn't done any heroics trying to control it, get it out of the way, pulls over to the right. And that's David going through turn 3, I think I'm right in saying. And he's going to pull right across. No oil apparently coming out of the back. But of course that slowed down these guys. That bit of David Coulthard slowing down, entering the pits, broke this up a little bit, and they dropped back from Michael Schumacher. Now Hakkinen's left in the position he loves to be, where he can just drive his own race. This beautiful, smooth driving he does. He's just he is one and part of that car, that McLaren Mercedes. Absolutely superb.
Now, last time past start finish, Schumacher was 2.6 seconds back of Mika Hakkinen. Again, that had to be quite a fright for Michael to have David just suddenly cut offline and in with a bit of smoke trailing. And there you see Hakkinen, and you'll see Schumacher just barely come into view. Or not. And look at Villeneuve up there moving up to 6th. Villeneuve to 6th and Zonta to 10th. So VAR with high hopes and Honda power this year.
Yes, he'll be very, very happy with, if he can come around in 6th and just keep it there at the end of the race, he's going to have a good position. A long, long way to go yet. I don't know if you can really hear the noise of that McLaren. It is magnificent. It's different to anybody else. There we go. He's knocked. There's another half a second gap to Michael Schumacher now. He's really pulling away from Michael. He's turning on the gas because he hasn't got David Coulthard in there to slow Michael down at all.
Yeah, McLaren have adapted a new exhaust system for this season where everyone else runs 2 outlets. They have a Siamese system, and it's really a different sound.
Well, it comes out through the diffuser. The diffuser is the area underneath the rear of the car that gives it stability, and where the pipes used to come out in the middle of that diffuser used to cause a lot of instability when you came off the gas pedal, when you turned into corners, made it very unstable. So everybody went away from it. For 2 years, we haven't had exhaust in the diffusers. Ferraris have them coming out almost behind the drivers' heads. Suddenly, McLaren have somehow solved it, and they've got them coming out to the diffuser again. So look for everybody else doing the same. Heinz Harald Frenzen's wing mirrors are so full of that red Ferrari.
Yes.
Remember, we saw some excellent drives from Frenzen last year, and also, of course, from Ralf Schumacher. Absolutely superb drives from Ralf last year, who's now in 9th place. Remember, he's in the Williams with the new BMW engine. Jenson Button is in the other car in 12th place, so Jenson's doing very well indeed as well. But Ralf Schumacher to me was the driver of the year last year. He was sensational in that very underpowered Williams.
What a thrill this must be for Barrichello in the Ferrari. Last year in the Stewart, it was only on rare occasion that he'd been able to nip at the heels of the Jordans and have a strong shot to pass. And, you know, here, this has got to be the start of a dream season for Barrichello.
Oh, I mean, absolutely outstanding. Imagine going to Brazil for the next Grand Prix. Doesn't matter what happens in this race, but there is last season, 16 starts, 1 pole and 3 podium finishes. Most of those were due to attrition, one has to say, but the Stewart car was running extremely well and got better and better. Here we ride with Michael Schumacher.
So Barrichello continues to harass Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And Peter, with Barrichello now in a Ferrari, I would imagine for the fans going to Brazil in 2 weeks' time, that's going to be a pretty tough ticket.
Rubens Barrichello settling in very well at Ferrari. At Brazil now, they've already had to build 2 extra grandstands, 10,000 people per grandstand. And whereas in previous years, it's been pretty easy to turn up on the day, now it's capacity and it's a complete sellout for the Brazilian Grand Prix. Right back to the level of the Ayrton Senna days. But don't forget, since then, there's been a massive escalation in the price of tickets. So Rubens Barrichello really establishing himself as a Brazilian national hero, as a Ferrari driver. And he commented here in Melbourne the first day he went out in the car how fantastic it was to see lots of Brazilian flags in the crowd here in Australia.
Barrichello is certainly going to sell tickets in Brazil, and as you heard in Formula One-on-One during pre-race with Peter, with his enthusiasm, I think that's just going to be a huge boost for Ferrari. One thing to note, if we go back on board with Barrichello, the 2 chief spotting differences between his and Schumacher's helmets, the white surrounding the eye port on Barrichello, and the very top of both helmets are that pearl blue, but whereas Schumacher's has the kind of stars effect, Barrichello's has those little silver bars, and otherwise it's tough to tell the 2 apart.
So tough that we called it wrong, but I could see that orange car in front. I was going, I'm sure that's a Jordan in front, but he just told me that it was something. Had told me that it wasn't. It was Michael.
Schumacher has knocked it down to 3.2 seconds. Currently not a threat to Hakkinen, but there you see he's within striking distance. It's McLaren and Ferrari here in Australia. There's where they're running and where they started. 16 laps have been completed. Welcome back to Australia. Problems for Mika Hakkinen, the race leader and defending world champion. Smoke from the back of his McLaren Mercedes. And he may have fallen victim to the same problem as teammate David Coulthard did half a dozen laps ago.
He looked pretty much like it was exactly the same. We're heading towards pit stops at this point. Michael Schumacher's been clicking in fastest laps as well. Here we go, let's watch it as Mika Hakkinen suddenly has the motor go. Look at that. Clouds of smoke out the back. That's the end of the Australian Grand Prix for Mika this year. Again, no back-to-back victories at this race for anybody, as history dictates.
Well, it's deja vu all over again. For the 2nd year in a row, McLaren Mercedes will score no points in Australia.
Well, let's just hope these Ferraris can get something. Let's see how well Rubens Barrichello, if he can break up that gap between him and the Jordans. This will be done through some sort of pit strategy by Ferrari. Remember, they are the kings of pit strategy. Maybe they'll make it work in their favor again and let Barrichello out ahead of those Jordans. Michael's never won here in Australia, and he's never had the pole either.
Well, he said at the top of the day that qualifying 3rd would prove no hindrance. The car would be competitive, and he's been able to keep the McLarens well in sight. He fell back for Mika Hakkinen when David Coulthard suddenly slowed coming out of the last corner and pitted only to fall out of the race. And that gap had remained constant as Schumacher continued to lay down the fastest lap of the race as the fuel load decreased. So he's been the fastest, and he is now 1st. I think he just went past Hakkinen's car, stalled off to the side there. Pedro Diniz has stopped. That may be the first of pit stops here at lap 18. Nope, new front wing for Pedro Diniz.
And no doubt, a little bit of fuel as well. Michael doesn't, there's Mika Hakkinen. He's probably pretty depressed about that. Beginning of his championship year is not the way he expected it to go. They've been so confident through all their testing. Here we go, Diniz coming in with a damaged wing. Must have nudged somebody somewhere, but there is quite a pack of them out there having one heck of a dice, so it's not surprising that you nudge somebody and damage it. That smoke off the tire, I would hasten to add, off with the wing rubbing the front right tire.
Yeah, Diniz was running between Jean Alesi and Nick Heidfeld back at 14th position. And he and Alesi were locked up in a pretty good battle with Jenson Button and Alexander Wirtz. So now Schumacher with a 17-second gap on Heinz-Harald Frentzen. And I would have said, you mentioned Ralf Schumacher, I would also add that Frentzen was certainly one of the stars of last season. He kind of came out of the middle of the pack to establish himself as one of the top 5 of Grand Prix drivers.
I did say that actually, Mike, but you were probably studying your notes.
I'm
I did
sorry,
say it.
Derek.
No, don't be silly. I did say it. I feel exactly the same as you. Those two were the drivers of last season. Ralf, of course, today, as we mentioned, is further back. He's in 8th place. Interesting also to notice that Alesi, despite his instance early, has worked his way past his teammate Nick Heidfeld, and he's up into 12th place. So you've got the two Prosts, which have had dismal times in practice. They haven't been running at all well during all the tests leading up to this event, during Barcelona and wherever. And Prost has been openly very, very critical of Peugeot's effort into making this engine work. We know that his contract expires with Peugeot at the end of this year, so maybe this is just the beginning of it, the thin end of the wedge. But we also feel he'll be getting Mercedes engine next year.
And Alesi up to 12th despite a spin. And how about Jenson Button? Started on the last row of the grid, and he's running up in 11th in his first Formula One race, and only his 3rd season of auto racing after spending his youth and teenage years in go-karts.
Yes, quite an astounding young man. He started off not that many years ago, as we said, but he's only 20 years old. As we go in January, he was 20 years old. He started off from 89 to 97. He drove in karts. In 97, he's the European Super A champion. He was the winner of the Senna Memorial Cup in Japan, 3rd in the Formula A World Cup in Japan, 96. 98, British Formula 4 champion. He was the winner of the Formula 4 Festival, Autosport Driver of the Year. And from that, of course, he got his Formula 1 run in the McLaren. And he actually had his first drive in Formula 1 on November the 9th. And here he is in his first Grand Prix. Not bad.
And having quite a run.
He's just got to gain experience. All you have to do, he needs out there, is to finish that race. He's in a group of cars, but he's just got to finish the race, gain the mileage. It's the only way to get better. You don't get it from reading books.
Back on board with Barrichello.
Miles an hour. Honda engine, it has some power, doesn't it? I mean, Barrichello can make no impression upon him at all with sheer power, that Mugen Honda engine.
Well, there's a lot of no comment going on at the Mercedes pit. Both their drivers are out. They started on the front row, and for the 2nd year in a row, failed to finish the Australian Grand Prix. Hakkinen and Coulthard out of the race. Both McLarens, both Jaguars, and both Arrows out of the race.
There's a real group going on not far back. I mean, there really are some very close drivers. There's a whole bunch of them. Fisichella, Schumacher, Zonta, Wirtz. They're all so close together back there having a real dive.
Got quite a freight train back there from 5th on back. At the front, it's Ferrari, Jordan, Ferrari, Jordan. Schumacher, Frentzen, Barrichello, Trulli. We've not said much about Jarno Trulli, but a very impressive debut for him.
Yes, wonderful. Remember, he has had very few years in racing as well. He's been there a very short space of time, and he's coming through very well. He's getting the drive that he I think, so obviously deserved. He had some good drives with Prost last year, but he just didn't have the machinery to do that well. But he's really going exceptionally well in testing, has been with the Jordan.
And wasn't it Trulli that came into Formula One with less full-size car racing experience than even Jenson Button?
Absolutely. He had 1 year in the German Formula 3 Championship, driving for the Benetton Junior team in 1996. He went to Bernardi for 1 year, Prost for 2 years, and here he is, driving for Jordan. But they all said what a great talent this young man had, and he's doing extremely well. He's 25 years old, comes from Pescara in Italy.
Nick Heidfeld is in the pits at lap 22 for Prost.
Some people may well be wondering, why has Heidfeld gone to Prost? I believe the reason for that is that he's under contract to McLaren. I believe that Alain Prost is very close to Ron Dennis at McLaren, as you may well be aware, because he raced and won the World Championship for McLaren. And I believe there's something going on with McLaren customer engines, or should I say Mercedes-Benz customer engines, going to Prost next year. So he's asked Prost to groom him through Formula 1 and take the expense away from Ron Dennis having the crashes, let Prost have the crashes.
And it's another little bit of pressure on David Coulthard to know that Mercedes has not only groomed Heidfeld as a test driver, but now he's getting race experience as well, if that seat should open up perhaps at the end of this season. Way too early to speculate on that. Pit stops will be coming up for the front runners, and we'll be back. You are watching the 2000 season of Formula 1 on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Australia, round 1 of the World Championship. And in 2 weeks, we'll be at Barrichello's home country, Brazil. The Grand Prix of Brazil live Sunday, March 26th. Mika Hakkinen won the pole and the race after falling out here in Australia last year. Will history repeat? Join us in 2 weeks' time. There's Heinz-Harald Frentzen leading Barrichello, second and third. Now they are about 18 seconds behind Michael Schumacher. And they've picked up 2 seconds on Jarno Trulli.
We just heard that both McLarens went out with the same problem. That was pretty self-evident, I thought, from Mike, with the oil smoke coming out the same place. The gap's constantly at 20.4 between Schumacher and Frentzen. I would say right now Schumacher is trying to conserve these tyres. Judging by the laps they've done, they're going for a one-stop strategy, because they're into the 20s, they're into 24 laps, I believe.
24 complete.
So if they're doing a two-stop, they'd be in at 20 laps, the 58-lap race.
One thing, Derek, to note is look how much lower the car overall, especially outside the driver cockpit area, the forward sections of the car. A lot of work aerodynamically done by all the teams, who spend a tremendous amount of time in the wind tunnel. Most teams have their own wind tunnel, and they really try to minimize the frontal areas of these cars. It's one of the, probably, I don't know if it's more obvious changes over the winter, but it's something that a tremendous amount of time and effort was expended on.
Yes, I think there's several things here. Ferrari actually have turned the engine from an 80-degree V, an 80-degree V, to a 90-degree V. That means they've opened it up, therefore lowering the center of gravity, therefore allowing the bodywork on the back to be a little bit lower, get fresher, cleaner air to that rear wing.
You see Schumacher just lowered the fastest lap of the race again. So he's certainly not out there paddling, marking time.
You see, what happens as well, we've had 2 years of stable rules. But last year, this year, we really haven't changed the car at all, really, apart from this rollover hoop stuff that they've been doing, and of course the lights and the steering wheel, but that's not really a structural feature. And in this particular case, you've got the situation where they don't have that much they can do to the car to make it better, so they just tidy up what there is. So therefore, you're going to get all the cars much closer in speed.
Well, two things, though, I think have happened, at least here with Ferrari. We've just seen that Michael's fastest lap was faster than his fastest lap of the race last year. So there has been development, much of it aerodynamic. And perhaps more importantly, when Ferrari came to Australia last year, they were brand new to the Bridgestone tire. Now they've had a whole season to work with the Bridgestone after many years on Goodyear. And I'm got to believe they're much better prepared to optimize the car for this race than they were when they came here a year ago.
Absolutely, but the other side of the coin is the fact that will they go to Michelin, because Michelin are coming back in again next year. If they come in, it's fairly logical that the other top team, although Williams already gone to Michelin, you'd think that Ferrari go there as well. Therefore, although they can't be given Duff tyres by Bridgestone, you know, could they possibly not get the best tyres, you know, best knowledge?
Hard to say. Well, let's get Peter to weigh in on this from the pit lane. Peter, how much of a tire war do you think we'll have in Formula One next season?
Michelin returning to Formula One in 2001, and already the rumours are saying that Ferrari will be switching to Michelin. The big question is timing. When will they do that? Because obviously they don't want to jeopardise their relationship with Bridgestone. They have a championship to win this year. But significant, we think, that on the McLaren now there's a large Bridgestone logo on the nose. Last year it was one of their major sponsors there. This year it's the Bridgestone logo. So not really any doubt about where McLaren see their future. The question is Ferrari. At the moment, Michelin committed to supplying tyres to Williams and to Toyota if they do come into Formula One, and probably you can add Prost to that list as well.
And Toyota, a question mark whether they will become the 12th constructor in Formula One in the year 2001, or whether they will sit out and wait for 02.
And I read somewhere that they've also bought part of Yamaha's engine development program, so they can get some help from the development they've had in Formula One over the years. This is a tremendous dice battle going on here for Jacques Villeneuve, dicing here very, very closely with Mika Salo, who you remember replaced Michael Schumacher after Michael's incident at Silverstone last year in the Ferrari team, and did such an outstanding job, in fact, backing off to let Eddie Irvine win. I'm right in saying, I think it was the German Grand Prix. Look how close Salo is to the back of Villeneuve's car. But remember, this is the best performance we've seen from the VAR, the Villeneuve car. They got no points at all in the World Championship last year, and right now they're in very good situation to get points.
Yeah, Villeneuve in 5th, Salo is 6th. Now just 2 seconds behind them is Fisichella. This battle's stretched out a bit behind them. Ralf Schumacher in 8th, and Zonta in 9th, Alexander Wirtz in 10th. Jenson Button in 11th are all pretty well in touch with each other. So a great battle going on from 5th on back, as Michael Schumacher is now waltzed away by 22 seconds.
We've just been given another little gem from the pits, and that is that both McLarens had engine problems.
Really?
Yes, can you believe that? There's a fair old dice going on. These two here, the 2 or 3 behind, they're having a really good race here. For Villeneuve, remember, in the VAR, it's the first year they're running the official Honda engine. There's been a lot of changes within the team. Adrian Reynard's come in, really is running the whole of the racing program. Uh-oh, there we go. There's the Lacey pulled off to the side. Obviously, we don't know why, but they have had a lot of problems this weekend.
And his not-so-excellent adventure gets worse. So Alesi is out. You just saw Schumacher lap Nick Heidfeld, Alesi's teammate. And so a tough weekend for Jean Alesi. Remember, he started in the pit lane after having problems during the recon laps. .27 laps complete of 58. So we're getting close on to pit stop time for the one-stoppers, which is most of the field. Nick Heidfeld was in at lap 22, so he's on a 2-stop. Pedro Diniz was in, probably not by choice, with front wing damage at lap 18.
Ferrari seems to be setting up to have one of their cars come in. This is a situation where they'd probably like to have brought in Barry Kell a bit sooner. Got him out so he had some clean road in front of him instead of being locked between those 2 Jordans.
Derek, I don't know about this.
Here he goes. Pit stop for Schumacher.
And I say I'm not sure about this rule with the lowered pit speeds,
There's
road
the speed
speeds.
limit there.
Right
It goes
there.
on the limiter there. 48 miles an hour, which seems desperately slow when you're doing 185.
I really think that this will cut down on the number of 2-stop races, or the strategy for 2 stops. Cleaning out the radiator inlets.
And while they cleaned out the radiator inlets, they put a little bit more fuel in, just in case. You saw that they kept the fuel filler on there.
But I say the length of time that you spend in the pit lane is really going to, I think, change the face of race strategy with this lowered speed limit. Michael with a look in his mirror.
Not wanting to let that Jordan go by him because he then have to retake him. Not what he wanted at all. Because even though the tyres are brought up to temperature, they probably were brand new, and the handling is always a different. No one set of tyres is identical to another, so you've got to go out and just play a little bit cool. That shot there, of course, you have is the Barrichello dice going on. So Michael is just ahead of Jarno Trulli behind him, and that is Frentzen ahead of Barrichello.
So Heinz-Harald Frentzen leads here in Australia. Mika Hakkinen started on pole and led. When his car stopped running, Michael Schumacher took over the lead, and on the pit stop, Frentzen goes to the front. Let's ride with Barrichello once more.
He must be coming in very, very shortly, because there's no point in him running out the back like that. I think he's staying out another lap. I would have thought they just didn't want him to run behind that Jordan. Michael Schumacher, of course, will not be very far behind Barrichello either, because he went in, had a very quick pit stop, and he was 20-odd seconds ahead. So Michael is not that far behind Barrichello at this time on the road. Those Jordans have been so good the last season. They've done so well. They've done so well.
And what's amazing is that Eddie Jordan has one of the smallest staffs of all the Formula One teams, and their budget is nowhere near that of many of the teams they're finishing ahead of.
They have a minor. There is a problem, of course, a power problem. That he runs the Mugen Honda engine. Of course, that team or that engine is prepared by the son of Mr. Honda, and who fell out with his father when he was 20 years old. Set up his own Mugen Honda team. He has the shares in the Honda engine department, and Honda have some shares in his engine department, but they're battling one against the other because BAR are running the Honda engine.
The Honda spokesman this weekend was asked about the Mugen engine, and he declined to discuss it. So
I think this is something like my computer doesn't answer that question.
Yes, perhaps. All right, so Michael Schumacher has made his pit stop, and he currently trails Heinz-Harald Frentzen, Rubens Barrichello, then Jarno Trulli, Jacques Villeneuve, Fisichella, Ralf Schumacher, Zonta, Wirtz, and rookie Jenson Button are the top 10. 30 laps are complete in the Australian Grand Prix on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Melbourne, Australia. Mike Joy with Derek Bell and Peter Windsor in the pit lane. Confirms that it is the valve actuation system in the Mercedes V10. It's pneumatically actuated, and that is what went astray on both Mika Hakkinen and David Coulthard. And
here he comes.
Yep, Barrichello's in.
It was about time. They had to bring him in. I mean, here he comes up the line. He'll press a button on his wheel any second. There he goes. Presses that button down to 48 miles an hour. It isn't an easy thing to do. Believe me, slowing down to the right speed at that line.
What a great shot until then.
Now, can he get out in front of those Jordans?
A lot of debris in the radiators, Derek. Taking a lot of time to clean that.
Well, of course, you remember that is Barrichello's first pit stop for Ferrari, so it's not surprising that everything is not perfect. You just saw the fueler cap just shut down as he accelerated down the pit road. Remember, this track is tree-lined, and you've got all these trees everywhere, and they drop their leaves down. There's little bits of debris all the time. As the cars go down the side of the line by that yellow line, they actually bring it off the grass into the track, and you can't fail but pick it up.
Out behind, I believe that's Ralf Schumacher.
No, I think it's Jenson Button, actually.
Okay.
I thought I saw a white helmet. It takes some time to get used to these different helmets. Jenson Button, I think, having a most outstanding race. I mean, that young man, I know he's young, he's 20 years old, but, I mean, amazing. There he is doing, you know, virtually the same time as his teammate, Ralf Schumacher, who was substantially ahead of him on the grid. And he's doing just a magnificent job. If he can only just keep his cool and keep himself together. see a lot of that young man. Everybody speaks very, very highly of him because somebody's so young. He seems to have his head on his shoulders too.
So that is Button. You see the blue top of a lot of those blue topped helmets this year. Blue top, white upper, and then the Union Jack all from the side around the back.
Tremendous showing from this BMW engine when you consider its first race.
Coming up later today, the Franklin Templeton Classic Finals. Tim Henman versus Leighton Hewitt. That's later on Fox Sports Net. Check your local listings. So both the Ferraris have stopped. Neither of the Jordans have been in, nor the BARs, nor the Benettons, nor the Williams.
Barry Keller's not finding it very easy to get by Jenson Button right now.
Of course, right now, Barrichello on a full fuel load, and Jenson Button.
You're thinking of Johnny Benson.
Yeah, sorry. He stopped turning left here. When Button came to the circuit for the first time, he wanted to take a rental car and just do a drive around and wasn't allowed to because he's not old enough to hold the proper grade of international driver's license. The clerk of the course had to chauffeur him around.
I'm surprised they have to use an international driving license in Australia. Nowhere else in the world do we ever see them. Oh dear. There's a flame on the back of the Jordan. That is not so good.
Jarno Trulli?
Jarno Trulli jumping out, yeah.
Oh, what a shame. He was in third place with the pit stops and all. And a bit of extinguisher fluid there on the right side of the engine bay.
Well, he put up a tremendous performance for his first race for Jordan. Showed that he has got things going for him. He is a strong driver. He just needs the car to run for him. There he goes. Hear that. That's it. Nearly loses it. Oil gets on those back tyres. We all have experienced that feeling, a most horrible feeling. Look at it explode. It just detonated. The heat at the back is intense.
So Frentzen comes in.
Frentzen, who's the leader of the race, coming in the pits, which will allow Michael Schumacher back into the lead. There's the speed limit line.
Now, last time by, he led Schumacher by 12.5 seconds. Also activity we saw at BAR up at the top end of the pit lane. And Minardi.
It's a long stop.
Oh, yeah. It took him a long time with a fuel rig. They're
having trouble with the right rear wheel.
No,
they can't get it.
And they've got to get the fuel rig back in. That's the third try to insert the fuel probe. Oh, goodness.
Well, that'll certainly allow Barry Keller into a nice, strong position in second place. Frentzen will be very upset about that because he was driving so beautifully.
Yeah, a horrendous pit stop for Frentzen. I think they tried 3 times to get the fuel probe to flow fuel in the dry brake system there.
It's not an easy job to do that. I'd hate to be the man that does that because everything really hangs on you getting that thing on fair and square.
You're exactly right.
And if you get a bit of dirt on it or something, you don't get quite enough angle. And he was trying to get in there really tight. Meanwhile, the mechanic was taking off the rear wheel. And I don't think he'd get quite in the right position to go on there absolutely flat, as they say.
The fueler is like the field goal kicker in American football. It's either we won or you missed. And there's no in between.
And he just missed and he lost.
Yep. So Frentzen's horrible pit stop put Schumacher back into the lead. And Jacques Villeneuve currently second. But we're told will pit this time. Well, BAR don't want to jinx them, but they must really be enthused with the performance of Villeneuve and Zonta today.
Well, as I said, they have the new Honda engines. A lot of work's gone into that. They obviously want to get out there for the future. Honda were coming in with their own team in this particular year, 2000, but decided that it wasn't the thing to do. They opted to go along with the BAR team, which I thought was a very brave move or a very smart coup by them to do that.
Here's Villeneuve. Zonta's already been in, Derek. He was in last lap. That was the activity we saw at the top end of the pit lane. This looks like a good stop.
That's Button coming in. What an incredible experience for this young man. That's his first pit stop in his life in earnest for a Formula One team. Frank Williams must be very, very happy with the performance of the two BMW engines today. Far more than they ever expected. They said if we can get in the top half of the field, we'll be very lucky. Well, there's still a long way to go, but my goodness, they're looking strong.
Very impressive debut. So most of the leaders have now made their pit stops. As we're past halfway in the Grand Prix of Australia, round one of the World Championship, and you're watching it all on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to the Grand Prix of Australia. It's Ferrari 1-2. Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello out in front of Ralf Schumacher and Heinz-Harald Frentzen. The McLaren started on the front row for the third year in a row. But for the second year in a row, neither are running at present. First, it was David Coulthard, who came into the pits. They had a look at it, sent him back out, and this happened. Meanwhile, Mika Hakkinen was leading the race, as he had done from the start. But then Hakkinen seemed to suffer the same failure at lap 19.
Yeah, well, I mean, it happened just exactly the same, but he didn't have as much warning because David had gone in the pits with this problem. They had noticed it.
Trouble in the valve train for McLaren Mercedes.
Frentzen coming in very, very slowly, if I'm not mistaken.
Truly out of the race. Frentzen coasting in. And are they waving him to the garage?
He's waving to everybody, saying, that's it, folks, I can't do any more. The engine's obviously got the engine switched off. He knows his day is over. That was a great piece of driving by him, as always. Very firm, very strong, but they're out as well. Not saying much from Mugen Honda today. Barrichello's just got the fastest lap of the race, 1:41.4.
So Frentzen becomes the 9th retiree. So out of the race, Hakkinen and Coulthard, both McLarens with engine trouble, both Jaguars, Herbert with clutch problems, and Irvine in a crash with the arrows of De La Rosa. Add to that Verstappen with suspension problems. John Alesi pulled off. Jarno Trulli, a lot of smoke from the right rear after he spun in his Jordan. And now Frentzen, we're told it's gearbox problems. So Frentzen, who finished second here last year, won't get his season off to quite such a great start.
The thing was their reliability last year was so good for those guys, and they just kept running and running and running. But inevitably, Mugen want to get just that bit more power out of it. They want to show they're better than the Honda engines. And of course, as soon as you push that bit more power, in comes the unreliability.
Well, you have both McLarens out of the race, both Jordans, both Jaguars, both Arrows.
Who said it wasn't a race of attrition?
Yes, and then the Prost of Alesi.
And the race is not over yet. Michael Schumacher some 7 seconds ahead on the last lap. His teammate Rubens Barrichello.
Well, Jenson Button right now is up for 6th place. The last time a rookie driver scored a point in Formula One, it was Jacques Villeneuve. Yeah. But Villeneuve, you know, came here as an Indy 500 champion and he went to the star.
And he went to the best team in the world.
Yes.
Williams at that point.
Right. I mean, and here comes Jenson Button after a year of Formula 4 and a year of Formula 3. And he's currently up to 6th place. What a story that would be.
A story for BMW with Ralf Schumacher running in 3rd as well. A 2-second gap between Schumacher and Barrichello's dropped on that lap.
Now, was that Mazzacani that not only went offline but off the racetrack for the Ferraris to go by?
Yeah, he did it before he went on the grass and let them by some laps ago. Well, the guy's not used to be overtaken by Ferraris. He's had 2 years of driving Formula 3000. The best result, I think, was something like a 6th place. This young man from Argentina, not at all experienced, but out there because he brought the money, a lot of money from Telefonica, and the sponsor said, either you put our boy in the car or we don't put the money in the team, Mr. Minardi. So that's what happened, and that's the state of a lot of the teams at the back of the grid these days. believe that Schumacher's having a problem at the moment, but he's certainly backed off. There's no need for them to panic. There's quite a reasonable gap, something like 41 seconds from Barrichello back to Ralf Schumacher. So why not just cool it a little bit and let's drop 1,000 or 2 revs off the top of this revving.
I'll tell you why not. It's something Schumacher said earlier this week. He said, you don't need contracts to dictate who is number 1 and who is number 2. Whoever is fastest at Ferrari will be the number 1 driver. Boy, Rubens is reeling him in.
Yeah, there's 15 laps to go, and you'd be very silly to push it on the first race. You know, a completely new engine, really a very, very different car, down to 1.8 seconds now, but Rubens knows he's not going to go by, and it's going to be an absolutely magnificent result if they can come in first and second.
But we'll see who'll have the last word here shortly between Schumacher and Barrichello. Jim Rome has the last word as he tells it like it is on the Nightline of Sports Talk shows, weeknights at 6:30 and 11:30 on Fox Sports Net. This is not a situation you would have predicted at the top of the day. Ferrari's 1-2 and McLaren loading the truck to fly home.
I must admit, I didn't think that all the top teams would finish. I had a feeling it would be Jordan that would finish strongly, and they aren't looking that strong.
Well, Jordan is out, McLaren is out. And right now, Ferrari and Williams BMW looking quite good.
Absolutely amazing. And of course Arrows as well. No, I don't mean Arrows, I'm sorry, I meant Villeneuve as well, driving there so strongly in the VAR with that Honda engine.
But one thing about Australia, it's a race of surprises. Eddie Irvine last year scoring his breakthrough victory. Frentzen quickly emerging as a player with a 2nd place for Jordan, and Ralf Schumacher finishing 3rd. So you would have got long odds on a podium with those 3 names on it. Let's ride along with Barrichello. Derek, is the picture, is it a little smoke from Schumacher?
Well, we heard there was smoke some time ago, so maybe he's backing off for that very reason, but it's a very good reason to back off. There is certainly smoke. I don't think Rubens will be allowed to overtake him unless Michael slows down so much that Ralf Schumacher, who's 39 seconds behind, can actually make any improvement on him. With 15 laps to go, 14 laps to go, that's 2 seconds a lap, and I don't think Ralph's going to do that. See, Rubens short shifted there and went up a gear.
Oh, he's going. And he's got him.
He's got him. Having said all that, can you believe that? Michael Schumacher has a problem. Michael is nursing his car home. What a debut for this gentleman from Sao Paulo, Brazil, if he could do it. With a Brazilian Grand Prix coming up in 2 weeks, you couldn't have orchestrated it better, could you, Mr. Eccleston?
No, but again, what a race of surprises.
Here he goes. Straight by, I mean, no doubt about it. Michael down on power or down maybe on a gear. Now, can Michael hold off and defend his 2nd place from his brother?
Well, will they bring Schumacher in? And there's also word from the pit lane that, well, it's hard to believe that Barrichello might need fuel. Now, he came in, I believe, either 2 or 3 laps after Schumacher, so unless there was a problem with the fueling, he should certainly have enough fuel to go the distance.
They're fueling up for somebody, or setting up for somebody there. Michael obviously is cruising, and Barrichello's got to go like crazy to make up some time so he can go in if he has to. Yes, he's going in. Barrichello in. They must have made an error in the refueling. Unless he has a tire problem, but maybe, or something. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see.
And Schumacher goes back to the lead. All right, he's got 37 seconds. Check that. He's got 37 seconds on Ralph.
No, he's got a time for a pit stop. There is time for a pit stop as long as it's an ordinary one. It's no more than 10 seconds. Because takes, it's a 20-odd second pit stop. That's it, he's got the fuel in, off he goes. Yeah, he should go out in the lead.
Well, now,
I mean, in second place, should I say.
in the old days of Ferrari intrigue, the Commendatore might well bring Barrichello in as if he needed a pit stop so that he wouldn't hinder Schumacher, and Schumacher go on to victory. But in today's F1, what do you think?
Well, I have to defend,
I'd hope not.
I have to defend dear old El Commendatore, who isn't here to do it, bless his heart, but he actually never went to the races. And of course, there wasn't the communication we have today, so he certainly couldn't sit in Italy and dictate what happened in Australia. But I think it's fair comment, Mike. He would always sit in his office at home and watch the race.
Well, Michael Schumacher goes back to the front, and now Barrichello holds second from Ralf Schumacher. We continue after this. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Australia. Gaston Mazzacani has parked his Minardi, retired from the race, joining a growing list of retirees. And just moments ago, the young 20-year-old phenom, Jenson Button, having trouble with his Williams BMW. Cloud of smoke. Putting on the brakes behind as he is out of race.
Yes, and of course they don't know quite where he's likely to go, because he gets the oil sprayed on those rear wheels, on those rear tires. So we watch Ralf Schumacher in the other Williams. Ralf doing a stunning job there in third place in the other Williams BMW.
And for a car that they felt might be down on horsepower, and a complete question as to reliability, not having been tested in battle, this is a tremendous debut.
Well, BMW are putting all their effort into this project. They were going to do another. They were going to get involved at Le Mans and things like that, and they won Le Mans last year with their sports car. But this Gerhard Berger said no. Everything goes into this project. Even the series over here that in America that I was involved with, they were going to. We asked them to run in that, and they said no. All our effort is going into the Formula One program, and rightly so too.
Well, it's a large bucket to fill with the dollars to fund a Formula One engine development program, but certainly if they can come back and run at this level all year, that'll be a tremendous boost for them. Well, I'll bet the banners will be up in the showrooms on Monday.
They certainly will. The battle between those two giants, Mercedes-Benz and BMW, is going to get very, very dramatic during the year. Ferrari, of course, on their own agenda. Ferrari you have to consider in a different world as far as cars are concerned, but these two major mass-producing companies are going to have a right royal battle all year.
And it's interesting because the flavor of their cars are so different. Mercedes is really trying hard to establish a sporting image for their cars, while BMW is here to affirm theirs. The M program of street cars. Now Mercedes has their AMG line of street vehicles, even to and including their sport utilities.
Well, it's 12 years since actually we saw a BMW racing in Formula One. And the last time, in fact, was back in the 80s, in 86, or just beyond 86. In fact, the last victory they had was in Mexico in 86 when Gerhard Berger won his first Grand Prix in a BMW. Now, of course, he's motorsports director of BMW, so it's really quite something for them. Remember, going back a few years, their engines, when they had turbocharged engines, they used to turn up something up to 1,200 horsepower. In fact, the dynamometer used to stop working at 1,200, and the engine still kept going, so they reckoned it was something like 1,400 horsepower for qualifying. As Frank Williams was heard to say the other day, that was when the men had to drive the cars. These days, it's not the same, and one has to agree, when a driver cannot control the power, that is something very, very spectacular.
Remember a year ago, Michael Schumacher had problems with his car, ended up 8th in the Australian Grand Prix. Came back with a second at Brazil, and then back-to-back wins, San Marino and Monaco.
Whoa, did you see him get out of shape there?
Yes.
Let's take it a bit steady, Michael. Keep that concentration up, although he normally doesn't have any problem with that whatsoever. Where, of course, he's getting light on fuel, the track is getting more oil on it, out it goes. Look at him sliding out of shape there. But that's what is the fun of Formula One, or of racing anywhere, is getting that tail out and controlling it. Absolutely magnificent.
Well, I'm really confused as to Ferrari's strategy. If Barrichello was coming in anyway for fuel or whatever, why Schumacher, let him by? It was obvious. It was an obvious that he let Barrichello get by, and then Barrichello comes in on the very next lap, and now here's Schumacher sliding around, but he's still tossing that car around despite a 25-second lead.
Well, Michael said this before. Remember when he had the incident with David Coulthard at Spa in the wet? Why did he have to drive so fast? The reason for that was that you've got to keep your concentration up. You have to drive fast. Yeah. One has to look at this group here. They've had a race the whole way. That is Villeneuve, Fisichella,
Zonta, Mika Salo, Alexander Wurz.
And a fine bit of driving by Zonta here, because obviously he can't. Whoa! Even he got the car out of shape there. They had complained during pre-testing in Europe that the back of that VAR did slide a lot and they couldn't get it under control, but they certainly seem to have mastered it here.
It's been 16 races since Villeneuve has scored a championship point. That, of course, the last race at Japan in '98. So 16 races is the whole '99 season, or his entire tenure with BAR.
Very good, of course, too, there for Benetton, for those two Benetton cars. They've had a dismal couple of seasons. They've had a major restructure. Lots of people have left, new engineers coming in. Oh, look at this, a bit of working going on here. Is he going to go by? Yes, very nice piece of work there.
Salo
getting by
Zonta.
Salo, of course, was right behind Jacques Villeneuve earlier on. But that was before the fuel stops.
Right, so now he's past Zonta and chasing Fisichella. And that puts Salo up into the points in 6th.
It was so funny because Salo was just saying the other day, he was saying that he finds there are lots of overtaking places here in Australia at this track. He just proved there's one there because we haven't seen that one happen before. He's going to have another look now at Fisichella. His car is really working well. Remember that the Sauber has last year's Formula One Ferrari engine. Salo drove that in 2 or 3 Grand Prix that he's, or 6 I think, Grand Prix that he substituted for Michael Schumacher.
Well, he's really worrying Fisichella there.
Fisichella, of course, again in that Benetton car they're running the Supertech engine, which really is the Renault engine. Renault's, we've heard, may well be coming back next year, or in the next couple of years. They're keeping their finger on the pulse of this Formula One machine, and they're developing an engine all the time. They got a lot of bad press, even if it's called a Supertech. Everybody knows it's a Renault engine at heart, and they don't need bad press. So as far as I'm aware, they've been working very hard to make this engine much more competitive.
Now remember, they're up in the points-paying positions largely due to the demise today of McLaren and Jordan. All 4 of those cars are out.
But it is astounding for those 2 teams that we can see, the two BARs and the 2 Benettons to be running so close, and all together last year they were almost the jokers in the pack.
Yes. Well, the middle of the pack seems to have gotten a little fatter this year. That's good.
Well, that's because of this. That's because of this. The stability in the rules. The guys at the back get their act together. They haven't got as much budget, but they can develop the cars more in the winters. And there's some good engineers out there trying to work on these cars.
Right. The 4th through 8th place cars come by to complete 52 laps. 6 to go. The Ferraris lead Schumacher and Barrichello from Ralf Schumacher, Jacques Villeneuve, Fisichella, and Salo. You're watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net. Welcome back to Fox Sports Net coverage of the Grand Prix of Australia, round 1 of the World Championship for 2000. The Ferraris lead. Later today, the Franklin Templeton Classic final round coverage. Tim Henman versus Leighton Hewitt. You'll see the finals later today on Fox Sports Net. Again, this great battle raging from 4th on back. That white car is Villeneuve in the BAR. Just behind him, Mika Salo and Ricardo Zonta, Alexander Wurz, all in close contact. Derek, we've talked about what a great weekend these teams are having. McLaren in the offseason said we will focus on reliability. I guess they need to sharpen their focus.
They certainly do. You just don't know what stuff they do during the winter. It'll come right for McLaren. It did last year. They'll be right up there. But I'm amazed again how this group are going here. The apparent reliability at this time of those engines out there doing so extremely well. I know they're not running in the top 3 at the moment, but it is astonishing how well they're going. You can see there, of course, you can see that Mika Salo is chiseling all over the back of Fisichella, the 2 blue cars. And of course, Fisichella's trying to defend himself, and he's allowing Villeneuve just to pull away a little bit.
Fisichella in the middle. Oh, he really catches up Villeneuve under braking there in the light blue car. The dark blue car in the middle of that pack. That is Mika Salo in the Sauber.
Ricardo Zonta having obviously evidently the best race of his career. He's going to finish at this point. He'll finish just out of the points, but an excellent drive from him.
And right behind him, Alexander Wirtz in the second Benetton. This is 4th on back. Well, Salo had a look there on the outside.
Zonta's best result was 9th place last year in the French Grand Prix. So it's quite something for him to be up there now. And of course, he isn't very far behind Jacques Villeneuve either. He's doing a good job right there.
Jacques, winner here in '96, the first year this race was run at Albert Park. It's fantastic. This is a race I would gladly have bought a ticket to see.
Yeah, this has been wonderful.
2.4 seconds over 5 cars. That's great. To remind you, Michael Schumacher is 22 seconds ahead of the field. His teammate Rubens Barrichello in second. The last Ferrari 1-2 in Australia was 1987. Again, Salo really catches up Fisichella under braking.
Yeah, absolutely. The deceleration is the one thing that you find out when you drive these cars, how they do brake. They're incredible, the deceleration. It's in such a short space of time, and that's why it's so difficult to overtake, because there just isn't that room in that braking distance to overtake anybody. They're using all these carbon brakes. Look at that group coming down. But use these carbon brakes. That's why you see this big sort of black haze come off when they're braking at the end of the straights.
Interesting aside on the BARs. You see the Lucky Strike there written on the rear wing. In the countries where tobacco advertising is forbidden, where the Jordans say, oh, here, no, having a look. Well, Zonta, where the Jordans will say Buzz and Hornets in kind of a, I think, a little backhand at the flap that developed over their paint scheme last year, where they were Lucky Strike on one side and 555 on the other, after initially having each car represent one brand. The cars, instead of Lucky Strike in the non-tobacco countries, will say, look alike. For leader Michael Schumacher now, 2 laps left in this Australian Grand Prix. And Ferrari in position to score maximum points. 5 lead changes. 10 cars remain running with the retirement of Jenson Button and Pedro Diniz. So again, attrition here is very high in this opening round. Salo again, same place, same look to the outside.
He's still going to get a point if he finishes in that place, and that's really, they just want to get in those points. Very important for them, sort of morally, to get in that place. If Ferrari win, which it looks very much like they might do, there'll be 620 starts that they've had. It'll be 126 victories. Quite something.
And Michael Schumacher will move to just 34 points, I believe, out of second place in the all-time Grand Prix list.
breaks his, Michael Schumacher will break his jinx here if he can pull this one, just one more lap off. I think it's a real credit to Ferrari too to produce this engine, which is dramatically different to last year's. And he gets out there with Rubens and they produce this engine and they can get out there and show a 1-2. Amazing, I believe. And not what we thought it would happen either, we have to admit. Very, very special moment for Michael. Remember last year he had that terrible crash at Silverstone, put him out, really cost him the world, certainly cost him the World Championship. And he knows that he's capable of winning the World Championship. He knows he wants to win Ferrari. He once said, somebody said to him, where are you going to move at the end of this year? He said, I will be staying with Ferrari even when my contract expires. I want to stay with Ferrari. It's quite a statement from Michael Schumacher. And he says he still wants to race till he's 35, which is another 4 years. So who knows what will happen, because Mercedes and people like that would love to have him racing for a German manufacturer. But Michael Schumacher onto one of his, not a classic victory, but certainly a fine piece of driving, a very intelligent piece of driving.
So Schumacher was 8th last year. Barrichello finished in the points in 5th place here 1 year ago. Of course with Stewart, now with Ferrari.
This is Michael's first win since Monaco last year, because of obviously breaking his leg at Silverstone. British Grand Prix, here he comes. Very, very important time for Michael Schumacher. Boy, does he need these points. A wonderful cheer from the crowd. The Ferrari fans in Australia will be loving this one, and so will all his team, and everybody in Maranello will be watching it on the big screen, I've no doubt. Look at that crowd.
36th Grand Prix win for Michael Schumacher. Saluted by his team. And Ferrari will score maximum points in Australia, as here's Rubens Barrichello in his first drive for Ferrari, finishing second to Schumacher. He led the race and heads for his home country Grand Prix in 2 weeks.
What a great moment for him. He's such an emotional man.
And Ralf Schumacher there for Williams finishes third. So Michael Schumacher draws first blood in the 2000 season. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to Melbourne, Australia, where Michael Schumacher has scored his 36th Grand Prix victory, third on the all-time list, 5 behind Ayrton Senna. And it's the 126th win for Ferrari, which scores a 1-2 with Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. Great debut for the BMW-powered Williams. Ralf Schumacher third. Jacques Villeneuve gets the first ever points for BAR. Giancarlo Fisichella and Mika Salo get the points today. Zonta, Wirtz, Genet, and Heidfeld, the rookie, also classed as finisher. So Schumi leads the chase for the Drivers' Championship. Barrichello 4 points back. Schumi Jr., Villeneuve, Fisichella, and Mika Salo in the points.
In the constructors, well, naturally it's Ferrari. Maximum points there, 16 to McLaren, 0. Williams with 4, British American Racing with 3.
Well, let's go to the podium where we'll hear the German national anthem for Michael Schumacher and the Italian anthem for winning constructor Ferrari.
And look at those Italian mechanics, aren't they happy?
What a way to start the season. What a great day for the Schumacher brothers, and for Barrichello, what a debut for Ferrari.
Yeah, the winning driver receives the trophy by Steve Bracks, the Premier of Victoria, which of course is the state in which Melbourne is situated, in southern Australia. Jean Todt gets the Constructors' Trophy. He's the manager of the Ferrari team. For Mr. James Strong, Chief Executive of Qantas Airways, were the name behind the Grand Prix today. Rubens Barrichello, a great moment for him, only his second time on the podium, receiving it by Mr. Donald Walker, Chairman of the Australian Grand Prix Corporation. The third place position to Ralf Schumacher is Mr. John Osborne from CAMS, that being basically the governing body of motorsport in Australia.
In fact, Qantas painted up a 747 as a Formula One car. So look for that if Qantas serves an airport near you. Well, Mumm is the new brand of champagne in Formula One podiums, replacing Moet and Chandon, which have been there for nearly 30 years. And this stuff looks like it sprays pretty well.
It sprays just as well, doesn't it, really? Boy, they're having a good time up there. Very special to win the first race of the year. It's talked about for quite some time, plus you've had so many months to prepare for it. And it's so important to try and get those points early on. As I said earlier, as the year goes on, those points have become so vital for all those gentlemen standing up there today, and the other three that got points in top six.
Well, they all start the season with such great promise. Ferrari has delivered on that promise with a stunning 1-2 finish. We'll hear from the podium finishers in the Australian Grand Prix after this. Go back to Melbourne. Well, it may well be that Rubens Barrichello was so easily able to catch up Schumacher because his tanks were nearly empty. Let's see if we can find out.
Welcome to the top three finishing drivers of the 2000 Australian Grand Prix. Michael Schumacher, Rubens Barrichello and Ralf Schumacher. Michael, this must be the perfect start of the season for you. A 1-2 for Ferrari, first for you, your first win in 10 attempts here in Australia, no points for McLaren. You must be delighted.
Yes, certainly. I mean, delighted is probably the wrong word. I mean, imagine how long I'm in Ferrari. It's the fifth times we try to win this Australian Grand Prix and be competitive from the beginning of the season. But somehow when I went into my new car, I immediately felt this is the car I'm going to do it with, and I'm going to fight really from the beginning of the championship with. And obviously there was a little bit of disappointment yesterday because we didn't get the full potential out. And myself, I wasn't too worried. And I believe I proved this today, that I was right. And thanks really to the guys. They have done a fantastic job. I mean, not just the car is reliable, but it's so bloody fast, this car. I'm really, really delighted to drive this car.
Now, even at the start, when you were in third place behind the two McLarens, you just seemed totally in control. Was that the case?
Yeah, I was already from the beginning basically driving pretty easy, saving my tyres, saving my fuel, just for the final moment when pit stops would have come to attack. That was my strategy, and it worked fine. Unfortunately, the two guys in front of me broke down. I would have wished to have a race until the end to prove really how good we are, but I think we will have plenty of opportunities to do this year.
Now, talking about that, when you saw David retire, did you then consciously pick up the pace to perhaps force Mika into also having a similar problem?
I mean, I saw David slowing down, and I was wondering what's going on, whether he had a problem or whether his team told him to do certain things. I wasn't sure, so I was worried for a moment what is really going on. Luckily, I saw him going into the pits, and I knew what is going on. So it was just a matter of being calm, cool, putting pressure on Mika that we wait till the pit stop and see what happens. That was my strategy. I wasn't thinking he would break down as well.
Thank you, Michael. Rubens, your first race with Ferrari, you equalled your best ever finish. But at the start, when you were behind Heinz Harald and the others were getting away, what were your thoughts at that moment?
It was really hard because, like Michael said, this car is unbelievable. This car is really, really good. So unfortunately, in Melbourne, there's not a lot of places to overtake unless the car in front is really slow. Heinz Harald was trying to keep his pace, and at a certain point, he was going really fast, but that took a long time. So the guys in front were going away. So, you know, I was trying to work the tactics with Ross, and everybody says he's the maestro, and he really is. I mean, he changed my strategy. Unfortunately, I don't know what happened to Frentzen, but I think we would have done him anyway. But he did a fantastic job, and the whole team did.
How close to that first stop did you actually make the decision that you were going to go for a second one?
He was on that lap, I would say. He was pretty much on that lap when we saw that Hans Aaro was going for a long first stint. We chose to go for 2, so it was on that lap.
Thanks, Rubens. Ralph, the day didn't start very well. You had to take the spare car. I mean, how surprised are you to finish, let alone finish on the podium?
Yeah, it's really amazing. I mean, we came here again like last year with having had no race distances in a test, but the team did a fantastic job. The car was really great to drive. It was the best car I've ever had. And, you know, speaking about the engine, BMW did a great job. I mean, it did its job as drivable as an ICE engine, and it was reliable, you know, and we finished 3rd. I mean, I thought that if we finished, that we finish in the points, but I never thought about finishing 3rd. It was a great day for us.
Now, in the race, you were battling quite closely with a number of other drivers. Did you have a good, fair fight?
Well, it's actually a little bit boring here, because the only thing you can do is following cars and wait till they pit and then be quicker, and that's what we did. We went into the pits very late, I think nearly the latest, and that made us overtaking the other cars.
Thanks, Ralph. Michael, we go on now to Brazil, where I think it's fair to say the last few years Ferrari have struggled in the anti-clockwise and over the bumps. Do you feel you can carry on this good form with this new car?
Certainly, yes. I mean, this car is a faster car than it has ever been. It has been competitive. It is reliable, as we have seen. So I'm really looking forward now for all the season. I believe we will be able to be competitive everywhere. Not only the car is fast, we have already very good ideas how to develop it, and so everything looks to be a very good year for Ferrari.
Thank you. Now we'll...
Michael Schumacher leads his teammate and his younger brother home in Australia. We'll be back to wrap things up. Welcome back to Melbourne, where Ferrari has scored a stunning 1-2 in the opening round of the World Championship. But there has been a change to the official result. The FIA technical delegate Joe Bauer has excluded Mika Salo. There is a regulation that states that surrounding the front wheels, no bodywork is permitted in a given area except for brake cooling ducts. And the front wing of Salo's Sauber was found to extend 3/4 of an inch, 20 millimeters, into the exclusion zone. So that moves Ricciardo Zonta up to 6th. Both BARs score in the points. Vertchenay and Heifeld are the other finishers, and Salo is excluded. Well, we're off to Brazil in 2 weeks' time, and we'd appreciate your comments. Email us. Formula1@foxsports.net is how you can reach us, and we read each and every one of your emails. It's off to Brazil. We'll see you there live in 2 weeks' time. For Peter Windsor and Derek Bell, I'm Mike Joy. You've been watching Formula One on Fox Sports Net.